The 4 principles that we've set out are very high level, plainly. They sound rather abstract. That's a problem and an opportunity, because what we've done in evolving that terminology is really to draw upon a very wide range of sources. And we think it does that and it has meaning. But it's not much use to teachers in classrooms asking themselves, how do I change what I do? Or even to teacher leaders and principals who are saying, what does this mean for the way in which my school is organised? So it became very important, it is very important, to translate those high-level abstract principles into what we call the learning frontiers principles, which are much more closely aligned to something that teachers would recognise as guiding their work and giving them a real sense of how learning should look and teaching should be conducted. So it was important that we didn't do that. And what we suggested then, what we've conducted was a process in which members of the profession themselves, who were already convinced of the need for change, I think it's important to say that, these were people who feel passionate that the issue of engagement is a serious one and should be addressed, came together to ask themselves, well, if we believe that these 4 high-level principles are around about right, what does that actually look like and feel like in terms of principles which would guide our work?
So we held a whole collection of workshops right across the country where people, as Valerie said, who we didn't have to sell them the concept of engagement. They're living it in the classrooms, they understand its importance. But we had to get beyond the kind of more abstract into the specifics. And so we, over the course of, as I said, a range of venues and locations, so we amassed in total 16 principles, which sounds like a lot, but actually when we're looking at the integration of community, when we're looking at the way in which the curriculum's co-created, we're talking about some fairly meaty issues here. So those 16 Learning Frontiers principles are the way in which we'll now take that work forward. We'll go beyond those principles now into what we're calling exploratory questions, which will guide the work that schools and particularly teachers are doing with the students. And that's the stage that we're about to move into. And we think that we can genuinely say that these have been created by the profession. The profession's had a history of being done to, having initiatives done to them. And what was really important is that teachers feel a sense of ownership, and I think they'll do that when they see the principles.
So to give an example, in the high-level principles, we've got the one of personal. And there are 4 Learning Frontiers principles which relate to this concept of learning becoming personal. And one would be, and I quote, that students would be more engaged if they experience higher levels of autonomy in where, what and how they learn. Now, notice it doesn't say complete autonomy, but it says experience some level of autonomy. And again, this is not us, wackily kind of putting this out there. This is teachers saying, learners have very few opportunities when they experience a sense of personal agency, and they need more. And it is possible to give them more. So if that's a Learning Frontiers principle, which is much more specific, it then will be up to the schools who are part of the programme, if they wish to identify what we've called an exploratory question for them to start to create prototypical examples of practice in their classrooms. What would it look like if we gave some autonomy to this group of students in these spaces? And to explore that over a period of weeks or months, examine the outcomes for the learners themselves and for their achievement and for their performance, and ask themselves, what would be the next phase? Has this failed? Has this worked? How could we do better next time?
So if we were to take another one, which is under the umbrella of integration, what we're seeing through the principles that are developing is a desire for students to be more integrated in their assessment of their learning, and that involves a range of other actors who've never been involved perhaps in the assessment of students' work. That might be external experts, it might be mentors, it might be parents. But the hypothesis is that students will become more engaged and the learning will be more authentic if it's integrated within a broader range of contexts and assessors.